A very good morning to you, Leanne, and welcome to everybody at home. Yes, this is the latest in the series of New Age Business Briefings brought to you by the SABC. And as Leanne just said, the public enterprises portfolio is what's under focus. Now, a lot of you probably wondering what does she do all day? Well, we're going to find out, to be honest with you. 8 entities under the portfolio, and essentially government is a shareholder of these companies. And not so long ago, Minister delivered her budget vote speech to Parliament. There were a few things that she said in there. We'll unpack those and what they might mean for you, particularly if you want to switch on your lights, or perhaps if you've flown on a plane, SAA, South African Express. Denel, what are they doing? There are also other entities that we'll be exploring during this conversation, and you can be part of that. And all you need to do is send us a tweet at Morning Live SABC, hashtag TNA Biz Brief, and we'll get your questions in real time to Minister, and she'll be able to communicate with you. And who is this Minister? Well, it's the Honourable Minister Lynn Brown. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the first TNA of many, I hope.
Good morning, Peter. Well, good morning to everyone in this room. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you too, sitting at your TVs at home.
All right, so just a couple of months in the job. How has it been so far?
It's been a very, very steep learning curve. And I'm very painfully aware of the fact that government, and I represent government, is the key shareholder in each one of these companies. So I am standing for 54 million people in this country. And just having that challenge is a big one for me.
All right, so that's your big challenge as Public Minister. I'm just wondering, you've probably had a chance to visit at least and to meet with some of the leadership in your companies. And I just wonder, what have you found so far?
Well, I found 8 companies working. We are able to keep the aircrafts in the air. We are able to keep the lights on and have controlled power outages, but controlled. We are able to produce ammunition, bullets, helicopters, small aircrafts within Denel. We are able to mine diamonds and deal with a very big land claim and rebuild a whole township within the Northern Cape. I've also discovered that we have freight that the whole country and the whole of the continent in many respects rely on our freight rail through Transnet. So yes, we're keeping the lights on, we're keeping the aircrafts in the air, but I also think that we are not doing it optimally.
All right,
and that's why I'm saying, why I said in my speech, that every single company must just get back to basics.
What do you mean by basics?
Do what you are supposed to be doing. And that means that you have 2 responsibilities. Every company, you've got to grow the economy. So optimally, you've got to do that. And you have a socio-economic or a developmental responsibility. That's a responsibility to the public you serve. So if you are serving the public in forestry, in Safcol, for example, that is what you have to do. All the other fiddling must just stop.
When you say fiddling, what have you seen?
Well, I think we do, there's some, we often do some strange things. I hear constantly. I have a telephone number that I've had for 15 years, so everybody has that number. And everybody phones the public phones to say, do you know that this is happening in this state-owned company? And of course, what I have to do is make sure that I investigate it. And so, leave that. Just go and do what you have to do.
Why do you think that this has happened over time, and that you coming in now to try and fix this, what had gone wrong? Where had we let it lag?
I think we sometimes let it lag by having private interests in what we do. These are public companies. They are different to private companies. They are accountable to the public. And so that's what they have to do. So, you know, if there's a huge tender, everybody's lobbying somewhere. Don't do that. Okay. You'll get it if you must get it. And therefore, there must be credibility in the leadership in every single company to feel that if I tender for something, the chances of me getting that tender is as strong as the chances of somebody else getting the tender. Okay. So it's fair competition that I'm calling for. And it's that I think we must build the credibility so that people can trust us. People must be able to trust me. They must be able to trust each one of our boards. When they come and speak to me about something, they must be able to know that I will try and sort it out. And if I can't, I'll ask one of the really clever CEOs or chairpersons of the board to do so for me. Right. But I will try to do it. And I think that's what's different about our state-owned companies to a private company. The private company is your private stuff. The state owns this company.
All right. Let's. A lot of viewers at home are probably hearing, do you privatize? Do you stay state-owned? And these conversations are happening.
Yes.
Explain to us why government would want to own companies instead of just providing the infrastructure, providing the enabling environment for business to do what it does. Why is government in the business of business?
We're 20 years old as democracy. We have actually taken this country over in 1994, and so in 20 years, we have many, many developmental challenges. Just an interesting fact. In 100 years, pre-1994, Eskom only 5.2 million people had electricity. In the last 20 years, 7 million more people, 85% of people in this country have access to electricity. Now, think about it in this way. Your child's studying, and they can study by light. You need to cook. You don't have to go and make a fire to cook. You can actually just switch on the stove and cook. So the government's responsibility to the public is very, very huge. There are backlogs in housing, and so there are backlogs in education. We've got to rebuild, and we had to rebuild the country within a short period of time. So we must have access to the economy and how we direct the economy and how we play in the economy so that we are able to fulfill our developmental and our socio-economic demands within this country.
Does that mean at some time in the future you might consider that, okay, we've got to where we needed to get, maybe it's time to spin off some of these assets?
Peter, I better not speak for another minister here. But it's not government policy at this stage to privatize. And also, across the world, if one thinks about, if you look at airlines in Australia and New Zealand, they privatize, and then the airlines are back with government again. So it's not always the most successful and the most prudent economic thing to do. At this stage, we're a young democracy. We have to rebuild our people's lives, and that's what we must do, so that we create fair opportunity into the future. And in the future, when somebody much younger, much more beautiful than me is the minister, I think that kind of decision could change. But in a far future, I suppose.
All right. You've got 8 entities that you have to manage as the shareholder. Let's start going through some of them. Let's start with the big ones. Eskom, I guess. We've just heard from the chairman that Eskom is going through some difficulties financially. Tell us a little bit about what you see are the things that need to be fixed straight away.
I think the financial difficulties have come over a long period. And the pricing structure through the MYPD 3 has already created a big hole in Eskom's budget. In fact, I'm really concerned that they actually paid for today. But they also made 7 billion rand profits. They also made 7 billion rand profit this year. Nothing that we need. We need 250 billion if Eskom is to be on a good footing. So Eskom has to do what it has to do, and that is belt tightening, cut out the wastage, so that it shows Eskom's commitment to what we need to do. What I need to do is make sure that I appoint a CEO, stabilize the company, ensure that we have the skill and the capacity within Eskom. And then what government needs to do, and the Minister of Energy, Minister of Finance, and myself, with very large technical teams, we're looking at how to get Eskom out of its trouble within a very short period of time. Because remember that Eskom also has 3 months, since 3 months ago almost, 2 months ago, and that will be September, to prove to the credit rating agencies that it is a going concern. So we don't have a long time in which to look at what we need to do. So it's a couple of things that we are looking at, a couple of levers that we can unblock. It's issues of a direct fiscus, from the fiscus, an equity injection. It will be guarantees that we could give Eskom. I don't want to give them all the tips yet, because we've not gotten to the end of it. I really want Eskom also, and they are going through a process that's called BPP, which means a belt tightening process. And I'm very grateful. They've actually really, really worked at this. And this has been the one thing that we have put our heads together, got all government departments together, so that we can find and forge the solution for Eskom. So by September, we've got to be able to tell the public what we have done to A, save Eskom, and B, to make sure that Eskom is able to do what it has to. I don't want to say cheap electricity, but affordable electricity to help us grow the economy and meet some of our socio-economic